Hello. It's my pleasure today to be here with Lorenza Fabre Vega from the Latattore Foundation, and we are really eager to hear about your work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So we're really interested in hearing how this foundation got started and a little bit more about the mission and the goals.
Of course. So Latattore got started, it was established in 2011 by my parents, really with the goal of helping the community by being involved in areas that would support families. One of the things I think growing up for me is they were always very great at telling me, like, let's help those around us. So we're an immigrant family from Mexico that moved to the U.S. And I think one of the big things that they instilled and why they wanted to create it was because they said, you know, we had all these opportunities coming here. Not everyone has the same privilege or opportunities. So we want to make sure we can start something that we could help those who might be in a tougher situation.
That's fantastic. And as an immigrant myself, I really, really value that cultural background and that support. So tell us a little bit more about the background, how you guys choose San Diego.
So we chose San Diego a little bit, I'll be honest, because I loved it. But a big thing that when I was kind of thinking of the future of the foundation, I said, if we really want to help those, right, that are coming into the country, that are needing resources, or that maybe English is not their first language, to me, San Diego made a lot of sense. One, because of where it is located geographically, in the geography. So being in the border, having families coming in, maybe some having to leave, it just made sense because I think it has the bicultural aspect of it, and that's really who we are as well. So it really aligned with us.
That's really very smart strategy. But just tell me how you as a family come up with this idea, and from the million of opportunities and needs, you define your goals and choose one, pick one to make your impact.
It wasn't easy. I think one of the great parts is that because we're all involved, so my family, it's four. So it's my parents, my sister, and I. And something that's been great is I think we've all had our voice in the whole process. That was also tricky because, of course, some of us were like, I want to help in this area. No, I want this. But one of the things that we kind of sat down and talked about is, like, we all want the same thing, right? We want to be able to help others. We want to be able to help those in need, and specifically with families and youth, just because we think this is the future, right? If we can start changing families and helping communities, then what we can expect in the future is a lot better. So I think starting with the broad aspect of it kind of helped us narrow it down of, okay, so from there, what areas do we really think are like the most important to us that we've seen an impact either for our family or those around us? And I think that's kind of how we went to, okay, arts, it's a big thing because we really feel that art is a way of people to communicate that maybe language or speaking is not an easy way for them. So art was one of the big things. We also said education, just because I think having the ability to get education has really made a big change in what we see as opportunities in the future. And the third one was health. So we think that if you have access to health, it makes such a big difference for the way that you live, right? So if you put health as one of the pillars for us as a way of being, we think that this kind of tied in with art and education just like built for us that kind of groundwork of what we wanted to do in the future. And it hasn't been easy after that to kind of know where to get involved. I think that's the tricky part. When you're really passionate about helping and wanting to make change and you know where you want to create it, the hard part is not wanting to do it everywhere, right? Like, how do you filter through and know where are the right places to get involved so that then you can have the biggest impact?
That, I imagine, will take a lot of thinking and planning, right? So as you were mentioning, it seems like in the beginnings you were focusing helping families grow and maybe started with the infancy and the youth. What motivates you now to help us in the Shiley-Marcos Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, supporting science and this fantastic gift of helping people at the other side of the life?
I think one of the biggest things for us is, well, specifically for this program, so my maternal grandmother has Alzheimer's.
To hear.
And for us, I think that was like a big learning moment as a family, to notice her changes, to notice how it impacted the family, right? Like how we all had to learn how to be with her in a new way. So like, how do we make sure we accept where she's at to make sure that she doesn't feel uncomfortable? And one of the big things that helped us was, so our family actually had a whole dinner where an expert in Alzheimer's in Mexico came and sat with us and kind of gave us a class from like my youngest cousin to my mom and like her siblings, and said, listen, this is what it's going to be looking like. This is kind of things that you can expect. These are the changes that you're going to start to see. If she gets angry, most of the time, probably it's like an infection or there's something else, but it's not her. And to us, that really made us understand the process and feel at ease. And I think it allowed us to continue that loving relationship with her. So to me, I think that was one of the biggest points when we were looking at like, okay, what really aligns with us? This was it, right? Because I think sometimes you see that afterwards, but you don't see everything that's before to understand like treatments for people or access to care. And me being I used to be a hospital social worker, I remembered how important it was to know kind of why were treatments created? How did they happen? How did people get the access to it? And it kind of, in a way, it was like the perfect bridge for us, right? Like, how can we support more of the scientific part of it or the research part of it and the access to people, because we know how important it is when people do receive this type of care.
That's a fantastic description. I think you really catalyze what it means from a scientist trying to find and decode this devastating disease. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned a lot of how the family understands, and that resonates a lot with our Latino community that usually are the primary caregivers. Mm-hmm. So Lorenza, you explain us what is the motivation for Alzheimer's, but among the many centers, why UCSD? Why you choose our Shiley-Marcos Center?
So when I first got to San Diego and I started kind of doing research, right, of like, tell me what's going on here in like the health and medical field, I really kind of dove deep into seeing like what facilities and what places are in San Diego and like the type of care that they give and the type of help. And I think looking into it, I found the Shiley-Marcos, and it just really felt like it aligned with us. I see the involvement that they have in education as well, which is a big part for us, but also in the community. I think knowing that there's such a care and focus on helping everyone around San Diego, like not just right here, but it's like, I know that you guys help communities in like Chula Vista and like other locations. I think that really inspired us to be like, okay, this feels like the right place. I can tell that like the research is focused on how do we help everyone, not just one type of population. And that to us is the biggest thing, right? Making sure that this care is provided to all and not just to one specific group. So that really aligned with us.
Thank you for your works. We are very, very excited that you choose us, and we are happy to be contributing to this project.
I'm excited about it. Thank you.
So how you envision your gift, particularly helping the Latino or impacting the Latino community through our center?
I think one of the biggest things for me is for people to know that care is available. I think one of the things that I see in the Latino community especially is there's sometimes this fear of like, if you're in a different country, going to the doctors, like, are they going to understand what's going on? Well, the dynamics are at home make sense to them, right? And so one of the biggest goals that we have is we want to make sure that the Latino community has access to the care, but that they also know that the care is there for them, right? That like this is a support to you. It's not something to be feared. And I think also the biggest part for me is the knowledge about it. I think one of the things that I see a lot is maybe the Latino community is not as aware of like, what is Alzheimer's? What can it look like? How does this impact the family? I think that's one of the biggest pieces. It's like, how does the family system change when this happens? And for them to know that like there's a place where you can go to get information about it. There's a place that you can go to get help, and to know that there is care and services available.
That's exactly on point. And I wonder, so in the foundation, when you decide, okay, this is our new goal, we are focused now in this, do you have a plan to work with the foundation? What's kind of the goal? How much the foundation gets involved in what's happening with the receiver of the gift, and how you think you can contribute to make that even further or reaching more people?
So our goal is to really be very involved. I think one of the things that for me it's very important, I think my family aligns with this too, is that we don't want to be a foundation that's like, oh, let me write a check and send it out, right? To me, I'm like, that's not really having the impact that we're hoping to have. So the goal of the foundation is to really be involved. Like, one of the biggest things is like, how can we be involved also in the community, right? So even with a hospital, like, what plans are happening, or like, are there any get-togethers of like families that are receiving care? Could we be part of it? Like, could we have any piece in that, in sitting with the families and saying, like, how are things going? Like, is this thing working? Like, what do you think it's missing? And same, I think, with the team, right? Either with like the researchers or the staff that's like working with the families. Like, what do you guys feel like it's working? Or like, what area do you feel like it's missing or lacking in? So that then we can maybe find or help find those pieces to support everything. So definitely being involved is a big part for us.
That's fantastic. And do you want to share any other experiences that you might had in other projects, even just being involved, being in contact with the persons that in the end will be receiving this gift because you are making change, and how that kind of goes back to the foundation?
So I'll share a little bit of actually a new project that we're having. So because we are involved in the area of education, there is another nonprofit that focuses on education for children. And when I went to visit, I said, this is incredible. And one of the things that I started wondering was, like, what about the parents, right? There's so much, I think, focus sometimes in, like, kids and education in children. But what happens with the parents that are maybe not getting the same resources or the same education as the children? And these children are growing and going off to college. And many of these parents, especially immigrant parents, it's like, I don't understand what's going on, or like, why are my kids maybe changing in some ways? So that's when we stepped in and I said, hey, how about we start providing services in the sense of workshops for parents, where we help parents understand this process for their kids, kind of building again that bridge between the children and the families or the caregivers of how can we make sure that you as the caregivers and parents feel supported and feel empowered and feel like you have those tools to understand the changes that maybe your kids will go through. But that's really because we do want to be involved. We want to listen to what's going on. And these workshops are being created with the input of the parents. So what do you guys feel like you're lacking in? Or like, what do you want to learn more of? So that we can provide that to them.
That's really different and amazing, and I really thank you for the work that you are doing. And I think also it will be so many opportunities for focusing on the caregivers.
Yes.
As unfortunately you know, in first person, Alzheimer's, the patient is only one portion of it, but it's a disease that affects the entire family. So there is so much for doing the caregivers. I'm pretty sure that will really change perspective through education and support and trying to attend the needs. And there are wonderful programs in our ADRC center also focused on caregivers. So I think there is a lot of coincidence in your work and what we can do. So we really thank you for this vital support for our science and for our programs. And we thank you all. We thank you patients that participate in our studies. And most of us, we thank you caregivers that do the major love act and dedicating so much time to the person that is suffering this disease. I think you are inspiring also other donors that we also appreciate so much. We couldn't do these programs, we couldn't do the most exciting parts of science and those kind of more risky ideas without the support of all of you. So I think you are just creating a legacy for both, not only for the Alzheimer Center, but also inspiring other people to come and join and give something a little bit to contribute. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you, Lorenza.
Thank you.